So as you guys can clearly see, I'm a huge fan of the Tarzan soundtrack. I got it on vinyl, I got it on CD, I can play most of the songs on guitar. I'm not the best singer in the world, so I'll spare you on that one, but I love the Tarzan soundtrack. As for the movie though, let's take a look at the story. But before I do that, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic, and on this channel it's my job to point you in the direction of movies worth checking out. So that interests you, definitely hit like and subscribe, and today I'm here to tell you if Tarzan from 1999 is still worth a watch today. So in Tarzan, we have a family that survives a shipwreck off the coast of Africa. Now, I still would have loved if these were the parents of Anna and Elsa from Frozen, but because of Frozen 2, obviously that possibility was destroyed. But moving on. A leopard named Sabor kills the mother and father, stranding a little baby boy. Sabor also kills the little baby gorilla son of Kerchak, the leader of a troop of gorillas, played by Lance Henriksen, and Kala, played by Glenn Close. Kala then discovers the baby boy and brings him home to the disapproval of Kerchak and names him Tarzan, played by Alex Linz as a child and Tony Goldwyn as an adult. Tarzan then grows up amongst the gorillas, and while struggling at first, he eventually becomes one of the gorillas and finds his place in the troop. That is until one day he discovers creatures like him when some explorers stumble upon the African coast. A hunter named Clayton, played by Brian Blessed, a professor named Archimedes, played by Nigel Hawthorne, and his daughter Jane, played by Minnie Driver. Tarzan must choose whether his place is with the gorillas who raised him, or with Jane and the mysterious creatures just like him. So is Tarzan still worth the watch today? I would say yes. My overall thoughts on the movie are positive. However, ask anyone. Literally anyone. Hey man, have you seen Tarzan, the 1999 movie? Almost everyone will go, oh yeah, the soundtrack by Phil Collins is awesome. Right? That soundtrack? Oh man, you know what? Phil Collins didn't need to go that hard on the soundtrack, but he did that for us. He did that for us, man. That's what almost everyone will say. But then I ask, well, what else do you remember about the movie? They'll go, oh, well, I remember the hand thing. Like Tarzan and Jane's hands coming up to each other. And I remember like Tarzan kind of like surfing on the trees. And I know there was like this big thing how they were like looking at, professional skateboarders to try to get their inspiration for it. Like that was like a real big selling point of the movie. And that's about it. That's about all people remember about this movie. So I was kind of fascinated by it. Like everyone remembers the soundtrack. Everyone remembers, the certain kind of scene in the movie. But everything else just kind of falls down to the wayside. Why is that? So when I was looking at the story of Tarzan and really trying to analyze it, I honestly think that there's a lot of promise here, right? Kala finding Tarzan, right? After losing her own son. And now, of course, there's a little baby boy, but it's human. It's not an ape. So now there's that whole dynamic. And then, of course, Tarzan trying to fit in. He doesn't know any better. He just thinks that he is like an ape or he's a gorilla, just like everyone else. But obviously he's not. So him trying to find his identity, that is a pretty big emotional weight to the movie. I think it's a great story of, a man trying to find his place with some creatures that raised him, but then there's these new creatures that are humans that are just like him, right? Him trying to find his place. That's a great setup. But I find that this movie doesn't really get to that next step, right? It doesn't get that really heartfelt or emotional. Like you think about it, you go to the Disney theme parks, you see Beauty and the Beast, you see Little Mermaid, you see Aladdin, you see Lion King. There's almost nothing there for Tarzan, right? Of course, there's the treehouse in Disneyland, but it's a film that not many people talk about. Everyone just talks about the soundtrack. And I think it's because, the groundwork is there for a great movie, but there's a lot of elements in it that just don't really flow well together, right? So you got Tarzan's inner struggle with identity, and they have some time in the movie to really kind of flesh that out, but there's not much time, right? You get a couple seconds here and there, you get one scene. All right, you have Tarzan trying to put, like the mud on him. And I think that's a great scene. It's a great visual way to say that he wants to be just like everyone else. He wants to be like the gorillas. But that's almost really all we really get. Then we have Tarzan's relationship with Jane. And that doesn't get that much screen time either. And I think it works, but I just don't think that it has the proper amount of screen time devoted to it. Then we have the Sabor storyline, with the cheetah, or the leopard, I guess I should say. Killing the parents, killing the baby boy, or killing the baby gorilla. You know what? You have some emotional weight already established, some background. There's a lot more going on with him than with my next point, Clayton, who I think out of almost all the Disney villains is probably the most forgettable next to the Mulan villain, whatever the Mulan's villain's name was. At least with Clayton I can remember his name. The villain in Mulan I honestly just don't even remember. I really don't. But the Clayton character is just completely wasted, right? We don't meet him until maybe halfway through the movie or whatever that point in the movie is. You don't meet him right away. And of course he has some motivation that is just tacked on at the end, and there's no emotional stakes. We don't care about this character. We don't care about what he wants. And he's not really a big threat, and he's not memorable. He's not as memorable as Jafar or Scar or Hades. He's just some average villain that just wants to, find the gorillas, I think. Again, I'm forgetting his motivation as I'm talking about this movie. That's a problem. And his connection with Tarzan, it's almost non-existent. He's just, the ape man, and then of course we have Clayton with the gun. Just generic bad guy. So that's completely wasted. And then we have, Turk and Tabor with Rosie O'Donnell and Wayne Knight. I don't even remember their names. They're not funny and they're not memorable, right? Even the comic relief in Pocahontas, the little raccoon, I think it's Miko, and the hummingbird. They don't even speak, and they get more laughs, and they're more memorable than these two guys. But then, of course, we have the soundtrack. We have Phil Collins' soundtrack, and I love all of these songs. I listen to them all the time, and Phil Collins is my favorite artist, right? I'm sure that there's a VHS copy of me, like a home video of me listening to Son of Man and dancing and watching Tarzan when I was 4 years old, and I was just completely enthralled with the music. The music in this movie is really, really great. However, and it pains me to say this, it really pains me to say this, I don't think it really flows well with the movie and the story. Because for the first time, at least in the Disney Renaissance, these are not characters singing about their feelings or their problems or their emotions. Every single movie has had a character sing about what their inner struggle is. Tarzan doesn't sing in this movie. It is Phil Collins singing about the general feelings that Tarzan could be feeling, right? Phil Collins isn't saying, Tarzan is feeling this way inside. Like, it's just a general feeling. Like, these songs can be played on the radio, and they're amazing songs. Like, trust me, I can't say enough good things about this soundtrack. But as for a movie, right, as soon as a Phil Collins song comes on, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, the Phil Collins music. Okay, great. You sit back, you relax, you enjoy, and of course the animation is brilliant in this movie, and you're just enthralled with the music. But then as soon as the song is over, you're like, oh right, there was an emotional moment with the character that we kind of missed because I was so distracted with the Phil Collins song. I can understand it kind of fits together with Strangers Like Me, but then again, it's just Phil Collins singing about that general feeling of discovery that Tarzan is kind of feeling also. And in doing so, it kind of disconnects the emotion of the movie with the characters. If these characters sang these songs, right, and you do have Kala kind of singing You'll Be in My Heart just a little bit, and then Phil Collins' voice comes in, you really do feel that emotion. You're like, the love of the mother to this new baby. It's just so heartfelt. It's so amazing. And the song, You'll Be in My Heart, is just so beautiful. If Kala sang that whole thing, if Tarzan was singing Strangers Like Me and all these other songs, then I think that there would have been a much deeper connection between the emotion of the story and the characters. So the Phil Collins music kind of works against the movie. It's really difficult to explain because I love this music so much, and every time I hear it, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, the Son of Man sequence is awesome. It's so awesome. But again, it's not our characters singing them. And it's a disconnect between the emotions of the characters mixed with the emotions of the song. But with that said, Tarzan is still a likable character. We still enjoy the romance between him and Jane, and the emotional heart is there. But I think it could have been just so much more, and the action sequences or the more exciting moments with Tarzan swinging and, surfing on the vines, it's breathtaking stuff. And you have a great soundtrack to boot, and if the disconnect doesn't really bother you, then you're in for one hell of a treat. So overall, I'm going to give Tarzan a 3 out of 5 because I do like this movie. I used to love it as a kid, but mostly because I loved the soundtrack, right? I own more copies of the soundtrack than the actual movie itself. That's saying something. But even still, if a movie about an ape man or a gorilla man doesn't really interest you that much, please check out Phil Collins' soundtrack. It is spectacular. So anyways, guys, tell me down in the comment section down below, what is your favorite soundtrack from a Disney movie? The collection of songs. So would it be Lion King with like, I Just Want to Be King, and Be Prepared, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Is it Aladdin? Is it this? Whatever the case may be, let me know down in the comment section down below. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos just like this, definitely hit like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Take care.